Hello, my name is Edwin Baker. Welcome to the African Descendants Forum. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with a resilient storyteller and cultural producer whose journey has marked by overcoming adversity and transforming pain into purpose. With roots in Jamaica and a life shaped by challenges ranging from abuse to undiagnosed neurodiversity, this individual has emerged as a beacon of inspiration and change. Her work as a filmmaker, a poet, advocate, and community champion reflects a deep commitment to giving a voice to society's marginalised and celebrating the richness of Caribbean heritage. So let's explore the remarkable journey and insights of this visionary filmmaker. Danae Wellington, welcome to the African Descendants Forum.
Hi, Edwin. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great. I've been really looking forward to this.
That's quite an introduction as well, I hope I can live up to it.
Well. As I do with a lot of the interviews that I do, I like to just start off by getting my guests to just tell us a little bit about themselves, who you are, maybe tell us a little bit about your family, etc.
So I am the Sheffield Poet Laureate. I am a writer, a poet, a woman of many, I wear many different hats, a cultural producer. From Jamaica, born in Jamaica, came over here when I was a little girl. We lived in London for a little while and then moved over to Sheffield, where I've spent most of my life. But I am a multi-hyphenate creative. That's how I would define myself, and a woman of faith.
Amen to that.
Come on.
So I can see, given that you wear all these different hats, and I know based on the information that you shared with me that they all these different roles and responsibilities you have weave into each other to form who you are. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much interested in how important is identity to you, and how much does that influence your filmmaking? Because that's particularly where I want to focus this interview today, on your filmmaking. So, identity.
Identity. It's a really important aspect that very much it's in every area of my work. Coming over from Jamaica to the UK, I think I had to really ground myself in who I am and had to really go back to my history and go back to my roots and my culture, because being here can very much erase who you are if you're not careful, Right. So in everything that I do, from the writing to the filmmaking, it's about educating people. It's about creating a space where we can see ourselves more than just our pain, more than just our trauma, but all the possibilities of who we can be. So there's space to discover so much more than who you are outside of your culture as well, outside of your race, but who you are and who God calls us to be as well. So identity is really important to me.
Great. So what you do is almost twofold, because what you do helps to continually inform your own identity.
Absolutely.
As well as helping other people to maybe find theirs, especially within our culture. And that's, like you said, is so important, because there's so many of us walking around and we don't know who we are.
For real.
As a female, African descendant woman, how does that representation work at a grassroots level? There's been a lot spoken about in the press about female representation, especially for filmmakers, directors, etc. I was just doing some research recently, and I just put in Google, female black directors,
Yeah.
and it came up with a list of just 21,
Mm-hmm.
and all of them were based in, the US,
Yeah.
Hollywood way. I'm really interested in the representation at the grassroots level here in the UK, in Sheffield.
Yeah.
What's that like?
That's an excellent question. As you just eloquently stated it, like there is very few of us here. And so I think it's constantly trying to create space and search out where we are. There's a brilliant filmmaker and creative here in Huddersfield, Amanda, I can't remember her surname. Amanda Huxtable.
Okay.
So she's, one of those women that I look to as well.
Okay.
I think outside of filmmaking, but directors and creatives that inform my work as a filmmaker, you have people like Desiree Reynolds, Moji Sola, Ella Fawoju.
Okay.
So I look to them as well as upcoming, filmmakers in the city. And I think because as women, particularly dark-skinned Black women, hearing those narratives and seeing those narratives as well, because there's so few of us, I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation kind of take back and reclaim space and tell the stories, whether it's quirky or strange, but tell the stories that, they want to see. But there is just very few of us here, which means that you're constantly fighting to create space. And if you are entering into organizations like the BBC or Channel 4 that's already established, sometimes you don't get the freedom to tell the stories the way that you would like to. And you just have to kind of go through, follow the path that you can follow, learn what you can learn, and bring it back to grassroots, and connect with the community and to connect with the people in which, those people that carry the stories, that carry those histories that you really want to platform. Yeah.
As a female filmmaker, as a African Caribbean female filmmaker, can you just share with us some of the challenges that you've faced in
the industry,
creating your films, in the industry as a whole?
To be honest with you, I think particularly in Sheffield and particularly the wider north, because there are few of us, it's hard to sometimes, I think, obviously see the stories that you connect with. For me, it's also being a dark-skinned Black woman as well that comes into it as well. Because a lot of the stories sometimes are quite colorist too. So just seeing yourself on the screen, you're not even up to talk sometimes, but just seeing yourself on the screen is hard. But I think the challenge is one, having very few resources, be that funding or space to access to be able to tell your stories, because it's so white dominated. It's not something within, particularly Sheffield, that's seen as a industry that us Black folks would want to pursue. So there are not a lot of opportunities that are representative of us as a whole, but especially as a woman too. So it feels a lot like fighting and grabbing at resources whenever you can, and investing sometimes what you don't have into it, which can become very tiring. And then as a neurodiverse woman as well, it's having spaces that are not necessarily accessible, that don't really see you and are quite ableist too. So it's contending with that as well. But I think the biggest thing for me is not having the resources and not having the spaces that I feel comfortable in to be able to collaborate or to work with people, because it just doesn't feel like I'm supposed to be there or I'm welcome in that space.
Now, I know you've produced 2 really powerful and wonderful film pieces that focus on the Windrush generation in Sheffield. The first of which is Passing the Baton, and then Who We Were and Who We Became. Just starting with the Passing the Baton one, how did that come about? And why did you feel you needed to share that?
So that film, you know what? It's God, first and foremost. By circumstances, the funding, there was a lot of politics around the funding. and it was then redirected. In fact, a group of creatives had to bid on the
Okay.
funding, and I put in a application saying this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell a story, or sorry, write a film, make a film about the Windrush generation, and to tell a story that way. And they said yes, accepted it. We got the funding, and I just spoke to the people in our community, the Windrush elders, their descendants as well. And it started off wanting to share, their history and how they built culture and life in the city. But then what quickly became apparent was that a lot of what they had built had been erased. And it was on a massive decline. There was so much in the 80s and the 90s, from the sound system, to the carnival, Caribbean Fortnight, to the youth clubs. And then all we kept hearing from people was that, but these things are not there anymore. So we've had, these pioneers come over and built, something really beautiful in the landscape, but yet it's not here to carry on, to pass on to their children. And the narrative became about that. So it's like, well, why? And how do we carry on? How do we ensure that we rebuild that? How can we rebuild that? But also, how can we work together and join back together again as a community, as a people, to restore what was lost and to build on that as well? So although it started with the Windrush generation and what they built, it very much became about, okay, this is where we are now, So what is the legacy that we're going to go on from here?
I was just about to say, what I'm hearing there is legacy, and that's one of the things we treasure a lot in terms of why we do what we do, to leave something, not just now, but in the future, for future generations, so that we come back to the starting point, so they understand their history, they understand their link to why they are who they are.
Absolutely.
The second film, I was really intrigued by the title. Who we were, who we became. Can you just share a little bit on maybe why you chose the title in the first place, but what it actually means in relation to the subject?
Yeah. So I think immediately I thought about the things that our Windrush elders had to leave back home. The food, the games they used to play, the community, the river and the ocean, all of these beautiful things that was at home. And I think having this dream and pursuing that dream and having an idea of what that dream would look like, but then almost having to, not almost actually, becoming new people, having to grow a new identity in order to survive, in England. And all of, who they were back home is very much still a part of who they are now. But you've almost had to shift, who you are in order to become something new to survive. English life, British life. So who we were is very much a celebration of who they were back home and all of those kind of cultural, traditional things that make them who they are. And how that shaped who they became as people here, in Britain.
I love that. I love that. That's really, it's really powerful.
Thank you.
Who we were, who we become.
So you have to sit with that one for a second.
So you've done these two wonderful pieces of work.
Yeah.
Have they been received, and what's the sort of impact that they've had in the community in which they were based?
I think the first one, Passing the Baton, that actually, the way that it was received by the community was incredible. I think it was the first time in a long time that they had a film made about, celebrating the culture, celebrating our elders. And when I tell you the community came out in full force, them come out in a full force. And it was just a beautiful kind of coming together and grounding. We had a Q&A where people came and shared some of the history on stage as well, which was really beautiful. And so I feel like it's almost help people think about what they had and what we need to actually get back to, because it's like, okay, this is the impact that it made in the community. These are the cultural things that made an impact. These are the people that made an impact. Why have we not got that now? And what do we need to do to get back there? And I've seen this shift, in the community, or in some of the people that I commune with, just kind of fight a lot harder, I'll go at it more, to get back to that place. I think with who we were, who we became, that was very much outside of, that was more imaginative, more poetic. And I was surprised by how it was received, particularly by the elders as well, how we weave some of their stories into that kind of poetic narrative. But again, the community came out in full force, and we had people sharing their stories, descendants sharing their stories as well. And that was really beautiful. It's now gone on to be selected for 3 film festivals, one in Greece, there's going to be one in the UK as well, and one in Canada.
Wonderful.
So,
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm excited for us that our stories get to travel that far, so.
Wonderful. Well, you'll have to keep us updated on how they do at these film festivals.
I certainly shall.
We have to big each other up, man. We have to support each other. That's wonderful. I would love to be able to speak to you all afternoon. There's so many things I want to speak to you about. But as we join to a close here, I just wanted to touch on the fact that you've been appointed the Sheffield Lord Mayor's Champion.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit of what does that actually mean? Are there any specific roles and responsibilities that you have to fulfill within that role?
So it's a really exciting role to be in and to even be selected for it. So shout out to the Lord Mayor, Jane Dunn.
Okay.
So she selected 12 people across her year-long tenure to basically bring awareness to a particular theme each month. In June, I'll be championing arts and culture in the city. So it's very much looking at what's going on grassroots, what's going on across the city. Having her go to some of those events, bringing people into her mayor's parlor as well, so we can actually have an event in there as well, for them to meet her, for her to meet them, and to celebrate each other. But I think what's really exciting is that, separate from Majid, who was one of our coolest Lord Mayors, she's doing something new, something that I think has been needed for a long time, because I think when it comes to civic duty, sometimes there can be a massive disconnect between the community, between the people, and a role like the Lord Mayor. So she's giving it back to the people, and very much grounding herself back in community again. So I'm glad I'm able to be a part of that process.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, my final question for you then is, time flies when you're having fun.
Come on now.
You have so many hats, so many roles. You're doing so many varied things, inspiring things. Do you have any spare time to do things you want to do personally? What do you enjoy doing as an individual, or is what you do what you love?
Do you know what? I love to watch movies and I love to dance.
Okay.
Yeah, love to dance, love to watch movies. Because I'm kind of like tight for time, a lot of the times I don't get to go out as much as I want to. So a lot of the times it's just going out to the cinema when I can grab some time.
Okay.
Going out with friends and dancing, and see how we can shake a leg a little bit. I'm a quiet person, so it don't take much,
Okay.
But yeah, I love to dance, and I try to, put on some music in the house and shake my tail feather when I can. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any major plans for the future, and maybe in regards to your filmmaking? You got any irons in the fire that you like to share with us?
I have no irons in the fire at the moment. Currently writing a poetry collection, which
Okay.
eventually we're going to turn into a series of short films.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the only iron that I
Right.
got going
Okay.
at the moment. But
Well,
I'm
maybe
very
when
much
that's a
enjoying
little
that
bit more
process.
developed, we'll get you back into the studio to have a chat about maybe more about your poetry and how that's influenced your life.
No,
But
that'd be lovely.
like me, I'm sure you have been left inspired by the strength, vision, and unwavering dedication exhibited by Danae this afternoon. Her story is a powerful testimony that resilience, faith, authenticity, and embracing one's true self can transform lives and communities. Her dedication to giving voice to the marginalised of society, breaking stigmas, and celebrating cultural heritage serves as an inspiration to all. So we thank you for sharing your journey with us, Danae.
No, thank you for
We
having
look
me.
forward to witnessing the continued positive impact that you will undoubtedly continue to make, not just in Sheffield, but in the world. And I want to thank you, our audience, for joining us on the African Descendants Forum. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.